You just had an event that is going to be historically looked back by people like you and me and others as a really big turning point, and it was just simply an eclipse. Now, this particular eclipse is in a 240-year cycle. The last time this eclipse happened, in regards to the United States, it was July 4th, 1776, the beginning of the United States. This eclipse was very simple. The light switch on the third dimension was turned off, and the light switch on the fifth dimension was turned on.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. Guy here, of course, and my amazing guest today is Jim Self. And to be honest with you, I can't believe I've recorded so many podcast episodes and only now I'm getting Jim on. I love this conversation, and everything Jim talks about is just a beautiful, beautiful soul. And this podcast is deep. It goes deep, and which is how I love it. So if you love spiritual conversations and love hearing different perspectives, we especially get into the kind of end of the third dimensional reality to five dimensional reality, and what that actually means and represents, and also I guess living life in this dense form and what it means to be a spiritual being in 3D reality as we speak right now, and all the shifts that are happening and the old paradigms that are falling away. Jim speaks very well. He breaks things down. And like I said, this podcast goes pretty deep. Please let me know if you enjoy it. It's certainly one I would encourage to listen right through, because there's such a lot of great content in here. And I think everyone that listens will, who's on the path of inquiry, will benefit from it. So yeah, let me know if you're watching this on YouTube, your thoughts below in the comments, and also where you are in the world. I always love connecting with everyone and finding out where people are tuning in from. And as for myself, we got a couple of retreats left this year. If you want to come and meet us in person, we're still doing the one-day workshops, myself and Matt, throughout Australia. And of course, we do online group coaching and live events as well through Zoom, if you want to come and join us somewhere in there and plug into the group energy. Anyway, much love from me. Enjoy this podcast, and I'll catch you soon. All links below if you want to find out more. Jim, welcome to the podcast.
Guy, nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I've been genuinely looking forward to this, mate. I actually stumbled upon a very old interview you did on Gaia TV, of all things, a couple of months ago. Me and my wife were sitting down. She said, let's see what's on there. And she clicked on your video, and I got swept away. And I thought, I truly hope I get this man on my podcast. And a couple of months later, here you are. So it just know it's heartfelt and appreciated. And the first question I ask everyone is, if you were at a dinner party and you sat next to a stranger and they asked you what you did for a living, how would you respond?
Oh yeah, that's a tough one always, because it can be answered a lot of ways. It's what I do is I'm a pointer. And people kind of like, what are you talking about? And what I found in my reality, growing up, I always had a voice in my head. And that voice was always quiet and kind and respectful. And turns out it's very much this internal guidance system in the heart. And I would get to a place where I wouldn't be sure of something, and it would be that internal guidance system saying, what does this feel like? And everybody's had that moment where it's like you say, I'd like to do something, and everybody goes, you're crazy. No, don't do that. But yet inside it's like, yes, this is what I'm all about. And there's other times where people go, yay, let's do this. And you go, I don't think so. And when you pay attention to that voice, that guidance, if you look back at your own life, you always come out on your feet. Every time you listen to it, you come out in the right place. And so that guidance system has always been there. And it was odd because I grew up dyslexic. I was popular. mean, I'm convinced I failed my English test the second time around to get out of high school. They kind of just let me out because I didn't match the system. And so many people that you know also, they don't fit into the system. And yet in the heart, they're wonderful people and they have great ideas and great things, but the system says, do this. This is how it all works. And we don't fit. And I was one of those. But to answer the question, already the dinner party person's walked away, but it's in my task is to basically provide information that comes from, in a way, that voice, but that voice has expanded tremendously into an aspect of consciousness. Consciousness simply saying, here, this is how this all works. One of the things that we all did is we came here to play this game, and I say this often at the beginning of all the works we do, is, see, you pushed your way to the front of the line to be here. I mean, every one of us that's playing, particularly in a space that's listening to this interview, basically said, send me. And we pushed our way to the front of the line. And it's humorous and it's very accurate at the same time. It's as if the creator said, well, here, let me explain how this all works. You're going to forget who I am. You're going to forget who you are. You're going to go down here and you're going to wallow around in this darkness and you're going to try to figure out your way home. And you said, everybody, all of us said, damn, that sounds great. Okay, well, how deep into the darkness can I dive? And the creator said, hey, knock yourself out. And here we are. And we forgot all of that. And so in a way, this space we're playing right now is the time to wake up, the time to begin to remember, the time to realign and recreate and rewire ourselves. And so in my place, I say to people, I'm no better than anybody. I might just have a half a step on you. You're the ones who's pushed me and said, you go first and see if it's okay to jump off the cliff. And so I'm just looking back going, it's okay. It's okay. You can come home.
Yeah. Man, you've opened up so many questions already in that. When we come here and when we ask, well, how far into the darkness we go and find our way home, because obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now. It depending on what you focus on, it can feel very dark or very optimistic. I have people on here that, it really depends on where we place our attention, I feel.
Yeah.
And from the universe's standpoint, the creator standpoint, whatever words we want to use for that, what are the benefits of sending us here into the darkness and going? And
you mean, what are the benefits that we passionately decided that we had to come here to play the game?
That's right. Yeah. To then find our way home.
Yeah. Well, let's define the game board a little bit. The third dimensional game board, we'll call it. The game board of life as we've all played it. So one of the things that what I've been really fortunate, because in that voice, in those communications, in that conversation, the focal point has been in the archangelics. In my communication experience with the Metatron, the Michael, the Raphael, the Uriel, the Zadkiel, the archangelics, they will be really clear, and they say, look, you are we and we are you. There is no separation here. But in order to play the game, we're going to play this game with you from this vibrational aspect of consciousness. We'll call it archangels, lords of light. That's kind of the label that they're speaking from. And one of the things they said, let's define the game. See, your religions have defined it as a fall of consciousness and the darkness is taken over and blah, 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 the story of religions. And that there's a devil and there's a God and you better get your stuff together because you're going to hell if you don't do the right thing. And so you look at that first construct and its duality and its kind of fear. Better do it right. And the archangelic said, it didn't happen that way. It just didn't happen that way. There was no fallen angel. And so it's as if the Creator wished to know itself in its fullness. And it basically kind of reached into itself and created all these different aspects of itself and sent them out. We'll call them creator gods, little g. And basically, creator beings, go create, go do something that hasn't been done before. And the real tenet that people don't understand is you are a reflection of the Creator, reflecting back to the Creator what the Creator is. And so in the process of coming and playing the game, it started out, this concept we have called physicalness. Now, we think everything is physicalness. They kind of laugh in kindness and they say physicalness is just like a new idea. And it's really exciting, but it's a new idea. It's like a single drop of water in the waters, the universal oceans of all it is. One drop, physicalness. And so, and then we came here, like we said at the beginning, and forgot everything. So we only know what we know, and we're beginning to know what we don't know. But what they said is, in physicalness, there started to be a creation of density, physicalness. And it started really airy, really light. And then they basically said, what if we make it more dense? And they did, and they played the game, and they made it. And then what if we make it more dense? And they took it, let's just call it 12th dimension down to 5th dimension, whatever that means. Those are just labels.
Okay.
But once you got to the 5th dimension was well-being and joy and ease and respect and dignity. There was no fear. There was no domination, imposition, control, abuse. It didn't exist. But what happened is they made it more dense. In those upper dimensions, if something didn't work, it was kind of like, oops, well, that didn't work. Let me turn it around and let me rebuild the blocks and try it again. It was no failure. There was no failure. It was all a game to see what else could we create. And when the blocks fell down, they all laughed and went, oh, that was cool. Let's rebuild the blocks another way to learn something new. But what Uriel said when it got to the 4th dimensional space, again, just a label, 4th dimension is non-physical. It's a thought realm. It's all about thought. There is nothing physical. It's like your dream space is part of that 4th dimension. 4th dimension, much bigger than your dream space. But what happened in that space is all of a sudden things didn't work. And there began to be wobbles. And there was one other piece, which is where the religion came from. What happened is the Creator basically created this thing we know of as free will and gave free will to all the creator gods, again, little g. And the way it was always structured is the Creator and I are one. There is no separation. And so you're reflecting back to the Creator what the Creator is. But the creator beings got so excited about their creations, quite often, Uriel said, Metatron said, Michael said, they repeated it over and over, that these creator beings forgot to check in with the Creator on, well, how does this work? Is it aligned? And they created wonderful things in those higher dimensions, and they all worked. And when they didn't work, it was like, well, let's try it again. But when it got to that 4th dimensional thought form, and then into the 3rd dimensional density where we play, and they put things together, they didn't come apart as easily. It was a lot more magnetism and electromagnetism and bonding that held things together. And so things began to not work as well, and there was off balances in this space. And that level of fear and frustration and anger, resentment, all became mutations that came out of things not working. And in the density, one of the things that the archangelics say often is we know all the possibilities and we know all of the probabilities, but we are not playing in physicalness, you are. And you are the creator of form and physicalness. And it's your task to unravel the form and physicalness to continue moving forward. And so one of the things that also happened is when that all began to be more and more obvious, it wasn't a problem. It was like, wow, something new in creation. How do we deal with this? Because there was no fear in those upper levels of consciousness. And so it began to be a game. How many pieces of unconsciousness are there? Let's play the game of separation. New game. And so in separation, not remembering the creator, not remembering who you are, bumping around in the darkness with a bag over your head, kind of a lot of oopses are bound to happen. And so part of the process is what are all the possible permeations and possibilities in separation that could be possible? Now remember, there's no fear up here. It's a game. I say game with a lot of respect, not meaning be disrespectful. And so you, me, all the people listening that said, damn, that sounds like a great game. Can I go? And you pushed your way to the front of the line. And here you are. And so you've been enormously successful in understanding anger, resentment, jealousy, pain, suffering. Eons of times this game's been going on. But the point that is really important right now, 2012. We sat down, Metatron came in and sat in front of 500 people and said, as of this minute, 12 minutes after 12, where it was on the planet, there will never be another child born into the third dimensional game. We are closing the door on the game as of right now. Now, this is where the fourth dimension gets kind of funny because it's all, what he really said is we're going to remove the floor so the game board doesn't exist anymore. But fourth dimension, thought realm, because you believe the game is still intact, the game still plays out as it's intact. But it's not. And so since 2012, you've begun to see things beginning to dissipate, beginning to kind of fall apart, beginning to loosen up, let's call it. Not drama, not trauma, not terribleness. It's beginning to create a segmentation. And in that segmentation, people are waking up. They're remembering who they are. Or they're remembering there's more. There's something more that's here. And so I don't know what it is, but I know there's more. And I mean, I hear it all the time, and all the thousands of people I get to play with, it's like, there's more. And that more is beginning to be remembered, if this is making any sense. And what's happening is we're beginning to create, and you said this at the beginning, there's really a lot of drama going on one hand, wars, politics, climate change, starvations. It's the ending of the game. It's like a season. There's always seasons. And in the closing part of the season, in the fall of the season, like you're all starting to step into where you are, the leaves are dropping off. Everything's kind of quieting down. But what happens in this season where it's closing down, we're still playing the game, where so many are playing the game of power over, domination, imposition, control, greed. I have to find mine. And what you're watching is a tremendous panic that's going on. Now, the light's coming into the game, but the panic is, I got to get mine. What am I going to do if I lose my sense of myself, my security, my money, my house, my trophy wife, husband, my picket fence, my. And let me get all the people that think like me gathered into one place. Power is beginning to slip through your fingers. You don't have to look too far. Look at the current Israeli, Iran, Israeli, Gaza, Ukraine. The power is grabbing for, but the people are not in agreement across the board. And so you're watching the game beginning to fall apart. But at the same time, this level of light is starting to unfold. You just had an event that is going to be historically looked back by people like you and me and others as a really big turning point, and it was just simply an eclipse. Now, these eclipses happen a lot of times, but this particular eclipse is in a 240-year cycle. The last time this eclipse happened in regard to the United States, it was July 4th, 1776, the beginning of the United States. This eclipse was very simple. The light switch on the third dimension was turned off, and the light switch on the fifth dimension, well-being, respect, dignity, kindness, was turned on. You're going to see this, a lot of pieces breaking up in the power structure and the way we've been doing. A lot of confusion. This isn't going to go away because the light switch turned on. But you're in the process of watching a major set of things unfolding. You watch all that immigration all over the world, for example. It's being driven from fear and lack and pushed out of their homes. And yet there's a underlying piece of freedom. I'm going to find freedom. And that vibration is beginning to light the direction that the whole world's going right now.
Wow. Wow. With what's going on, it's been, almost 12 years since 2012.
Yes.
That moment, it'll be December, right? I think that'll be 12 years. So we're in April 2024 recording this. Do you see all of these shifts happening in our lifetime? Do you think this is just a gradual process, or the acceleration is just going to continue to amplify?
You know, we've said, all of us have said, well, it's all coming. It's coming. It's coming. We've been saying it's coming for a long time. And all you could do is it's coming. You couldn't put dates and timelines, and you couldn't do any of those things because, you know, you look back, all you could do is look back, and it's like, well, it's taken a long time, and the density is really dense. Within 10 years, you are going to see a reality that you cannot imagine right now. I'm even going to be bold and say within 7 years, within 5 years, within 3 years, how you know what you know right now will not be in that period of time. Yeah, kind of hear that loosely, just loosely. That's not a prophecy. That's not a truth. It's just when you start looking at what's happening and the games, you're going to see things like the world monetary system completely collapse. Now, people go, oh, that's bad. Well, how do you like it so far? Is it serving you well so far? And so what happens is, you know, the world banks are controlling the whole game on their terms. And are people starving? Are people able to be treated with dignity and equally? Are people given opportunities? Because they're not, you know. If you don't fit that white, grayed hair, old American white guy type of mindset, there's something you don't live up to it. And, you know, if you're Maori, if you're black, if you're brown, if you're, you know, if you're female, how dare you? You know, what were you thinking? The power structure says in one way or another. But that 1% that's kind of dominating the economics and the directions of an awful lot of things, that power is sliding through their fingers. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have revolt. You are, but it's not going to be. You're actually going to see things break in such a way that even the power, inside the power, they're wonderful people. You know, they're just doing their job. But you're going to see people who have said, I have a better way, who have been shut down, pushed to the side. They're going to rise to the surface. And they are going to be in positions to make things happen. And things are going to transition. Comfortably? No. Unless you're able to manage your own space, hold your own alignment, be able to vibrate in your reality, where the place that I would answer the question, what do I do to the person at the dinner table, is I provide a direction, cooperation, to give you a set of choices of well-being. what if we could just wave a magic wand and your life could be built on a platform of certain, capable, gracious, happy, a sense of seniority. This is who I am. Commanding your presence, a sense of strength, smile. What if you could weave all those feelings together? Begin to recognize that you have this thing called an aura, right? Everybody kind of knows that, but do you know it? Do you know that there's a point where it kind of starts and stops? More or less. And if you were able to simply make a decision, a really simple decision, that from that edge of the aura, which is basically take your arm, stick it out in front of you and turn your palm towards you, from that point to your heart is you. And everything on the other side is Shakespeare's theater to entertain you. Now, certain capable seniority, and I get to watch the movie over there without having to get it all over me. What do you think? Would that be a different way of living your life? That's what's coming. People are waking up. People are recognizing their own dignity, their own capability of saying, I can discern, I can choose. And the game that's keeping it all together is falling apart.
I love what you're sharing, Jim. It's phenomenal. And I always look back on my old self, the rugby player from Wales, bloody oblivious to any of this. But there was always, like you spoke about, I always felt like an outsider, outside the systems my entire life. I just didn't want to fit in. And I kind of really resisted it. And I'm so grateful now because it allowed me to I guess, stay almost like a blank slate to then be inputted in the information that I'm now, very passionate about. But with all this going on, this would feel a very far stretch for many people to listen to, especially when you start leaning into angelic realms and beings and things like that. And if somebody hasn't had that experience, it just feels like, what? Like my reality is just these five senses, right? But at the same time, I deeply feel when I look back on my journey, there was just a pull, there was a knowing, there was something that was just calling me forward all the time when the whole world felt like it was against me.
Yeah.
And I know I will be speaking to the majority of those people today, I think, and people that are on the path going. But I kind of look at what you just shared as almost like a rising tide.
Yes.
And it's like, if I keep holding on to my old self, I'm going to drown in this. And if I'm willing to let go and surrender and allow it to take me into this new way of being, then everything kind of falls away that's not serving me anymore. That's how I kind of simplify it in myself.
Yes. Yes.
So I guess my question to you would be then, what do we need to do to surrender into that? You spoke about present time and the present moment. Is that where you feel the magic is for us to kind of seamlessly go with this transition? That's happening in the world. Because I know there's a lot of people fearful and things are coming up for them.
Yeah.
How do we navigate it?
Let's change one word to start with. Let's take the word surrender off the table and substitute choice. What if you had choice? Now, see, as soon as you begin to talk in choice and you say, and let's just kind of push the fear and the uncertainty just kind of over to the edge for a minute. Now, see, as soon as you do that, you take a lot of unconsciousness out of the experience right now, right where you and I are speaking. We take the past. Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't do it right. They didn't like me. I wasn't okay. What's wrong with me? You immediately just push that to the side. And the future, I don't know what's going to happen. It's really nervous. And I'm watching those that have power over me. let's just push that off to the side for the moment right here. And what is left is me and you having a conversation. Two people. There's only, and everybody's heard this many times, there's only present time. Now, you can't change 5 minutes ago, but you can remember 5 minutes ago. And you can't change the past. You can have an idea of what may be possible in a couple minutes, but a couple days, a couple months, it gets more gray. So what happens is we basically live to a great extent in the past and in the future. We're hoping that doesn't happen again, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen out there in my future. And so we're constantly doing that. If you think about a lot of times you worry about something, how many times did it not even happen? Once the moment came, didn't even happen. The things you were worrying about to a great extent didn't even happen. Now, if you put a lot of attention on it and you hold on to it, you worry, you will, law of attraction, attract to you what you are putting your attention on. But generally speaking, so the place that I prefer to begin to talk to people, and this is what Mastering Alchemy has always been about, is what if you had choice? And see, that third dimensional game, and before we started, I mentioned this, each one of these, let's call them dimensions, without trying to define what that means. People use that word a lot. Let's just define three: the third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. They have rules and structures. This game you play in the third dimension, one of the prominent rules is linear time. But when you begin to get into present time and you begin to get quiet and you begin to look around, time is an application. It is not a truth. Meaning there are 5 different expressions, applications of present time. You get to use it as a tool, not as a control mechanism that I have no control over. Well, this thing in my past happened, and that's how it is. I'm stuck with my past. But with a little bit of just discussion, not even really working on it, I can show you the past is not fixed either. Oh, the event happened. But in real simple terms, what we do is we look at an event and we immediately run an emotion through our body. Oh, my mother died and I'm sad. When did she die? 20 years ago. Oh, and I'm sad. So what the person is doing is they're making a choice to run the emotion of sad through their body to define what's in front of them as a filter that they look at the world through. Does that make any sense? What if you could get into present time? Is this too much?
No, this is great. Keep going.
What if you could just simply be right here and I'm talking to everybody, think back, not on a deep, big event, but an event. You got embarrassed in 3rd grade. Somebody told you weren't doing it right. Now, look at the event in your mind, but don't hold the emotion. Just simply be in present time, because here we are just talking. But what happens is, if you then are able to ask the next question, does this emotion have any value to me right now? My sadness that my mother died. Yeah, I love my mother, but I was sad when that happened. But right now, do I have to continue to bring that sadness, running it through my space to define my reality that's in front of me? And the answer is no. And once you begin to have a little bit of grasp of that, it takes a little bit of play because it's interrupting the game board of the third dimension. All of a sudden, the next question is, do I need to continue to measure myself by, I'm not okay, I don't deserve, they don't like me? Well, who don't like you? Well, back when I was in high school. But you're not in high school. Would you like to simply begin to have a whole set of tools that allow you to, as simple as, oh, I'm just going to take sad and move it off the table? Now, without going into a teaching space at all, It's that simple. Remarkably, it's that simple. See, the other part of this aspect of time, they didn't tell you the whole story. You know, the mom, dad, teacher, minister, let's decide they all loved you, they were good, they had their own challenges, but they only told you the story that they knew. What if there's a whole nother part of the story, that part of well-being? You're smart, you're bright, you're capable, you're happy, you're certain, you have the capacity to like yourself. Oh, no, you don't understand me, somebody will say. I'm still suffering from my mother's death. When was that? 20 years ago. So, see, present time, when you get into present time, you begin to have a whole nother construct. See, that third dimensional game is not only the rules of present linear time. That's a big control. See, if you really think about it and say to 100 people on the street, can you name me two things that are absolute truths? And they'll tell you time and death. Neither one of them are absolute truths, but they are in the third dimension. So when you start to begin to be right where we're having a communication right now, and I'm just kind of watching all the people in the future who are listening to this in the future moment, it's a lot of like, whoa, what's just being said? So so third dimension, present time, conditionality, there is nothing unconditional. There is no unconditional love in the third dimension. But see, you live in the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions simultaneously. So third dimension, separation, duality, right, wrong, good, bad, should, shouldn't, third dimension. When you take a breath and you get into present time, something else happens. You now are not in the past and not in the future. And two things happen. You all of a sudden have choice. See, if you're living in the past and your mom died and that's the whole focal point of your life and you lived through that filter, you don't have choice. That's the life. But when you get into this fourth dimensional space, it's a thought realm. Keep it simple. Two more things happen. You begin to have choice. You want pizza or a hamburger for dinner tonight? I'll have the pizza. You have choice. Third dimension, you're constantly looking front and back, and you're always in reaction, very seldom in present time. But an odd thing begins to happen, and it's a wonderful gift in the fourth dimension, in the thought realm, odd word called paradox. And what it simply means is what was true a minute ago may not be true in this minute. And what was false may not be false in this minute. So when you show up on my front porch, and I remember in third grade you stole the money out of my pocket and I've hated you ever since, and you show up 20 years later, my first reaction is get off my porch. But in a place where I'm more managed, I know who you are. I know what I remember. I know who you are. How can I help you? And you might say, in third grade, I stole your money and I've been guilty all my life about this. And I've finally come to a place where I'm simply going to say, I'm sorry, and here's your $4 back. What do I have? It's a choice. I still hate you. Or, why don't you come on in and have a cup of tea? How's your life been? What's possible for you? That's a very different place when always and never get simply able to be removed. You begin to change the filters you look through, the labels you hold everybody hostage to. That's the part of the story they didn't tell you could play in. That's the story, that's the light that's beginning to evolve right now. People are just simply going, I'm done. And it's going to just fall away as it's unfolding. Is that interesting?
Yeah, very interesting. And I feel, just going through my journey and experience, that as I have been more reflecting inward, because I feel the first thing I had to do was make a choice that I want to go in this direction and actually want to become aware of those aspects of myself presenting themselves.
Sure.
If that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I still see many people that come to our events and workshops, they want to change, but they don't want to make that choice to step into
Yes.
the step forward.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear there.
Yes. See, fear is the third dimensional game. If I can keep you in fear, I can control you. If I can keep you in doubt, insecurity. See, there's an interesting thing. There's a vibration, excitement and fear. It's the identical vibration. One causes you to step back, doubt, and begin to view from uncertainty. One steps forward into possibility, opportunity, and excitement. In third dimension, it's hard to choose because I've got so much doubt and fear as filters sitting in front of me. I say, you go first. Now tell me what's going to happen completely so that when I step into this, I know what to expect. Well, Creator said, go create. So what if you could change that? What if you had a set of tools? What if you had a set of awareness? What if you could just simply choose a different filter that was like, held a smile, had beauty, well-being, began to have joy? See, in this new portion of this shift that I'm saying you're going to begin to experience, there's a whole new dynamic of light that is forming. It's like an architecture. Let's call it a building, but the building's made of joy and ease and buoyancy, laughter, well-being. And it's an interesting place because the more you begin to find yourself in it, I keep making the analogy, it's like jumping into the water and you get out, you're wet. It's still all over you. Get out of the water. Jump into that joy. It's get out, you go fall over the edge. You get sad, you get angry, you get resentful. You don't have to stay there. It begins to be more and more. And that darkness is beginning to fall away from people's space without them even knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. When, just going slightly off on a tangent, but something that I keep feeling I need to mention or ask you about is then about recreating our reality through our thoughts and emotions. Yes. And how much do you feel from your experience that's affecting our current paradigm that we see on a
100%.
moment-to-moment basis? 100%.
100%. See, there's another, see, so much of this is simple, but we never get to play in simple. Thoughts are electrical. Emotions are magnetic. It sounds like, it's like, yeah, okay, so what? It's so fundamental to everything, like time is fundamental. But what happens is you have a thought, and generally in third dimension, you don't manage thoughts and emotions. You look at something and go, oh, this makes me angry. But what you did is you had a thought and the emotion slammed right into it. It wasn't thought. It was just boom, there it is. But what if, and that's all because that's how it was in my past. I learned this from my past. But when you start putting that mental, emotional body back together, because it's one, it's not two bodies, and you can begin to get in present time, you can say, gee, this is really annoying, or this even makes me angry, but I don't have to run that emotion through my space to validate the identity of anger. And more often than not, when you can begin to manage that emotion, that magnetic bonding to the thought, let me say it another way. How many times have you said, or somebody says to themselves, I'm not okay? And then what you do is you say it again. Oh, I'm not okay. I didn't do it right. What's wrong with me? How come this isn't working? And it's like how an electromagnetic field gets created. You have a thought or a piece of metal, let's say, we'll call it, and then you start to wire it. You run the wire around the motor and it begins to be stronger and stronger and stronger. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? How many times have you said that? And so what happens is that begins to be so tense in the body, electrical charge, I'm really angry, and that emotion, I'm really all bound up. I can't move, I'm stuck. Body stops working properly. Mental, emotional thoughts begin to be viewed totally through those filters. What if you just simply understand the other part of the story, that you don't have to hold on to it? I mean, literally, you don't have to hold on to it. It's not therapy. It's not work. It's not struggle. It's not sacrifice. You mean I can just step away? Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, really? Yeah, just step away. But see, that's, I say often, we're like a freight train at 90 miles an hour, and I'm over here going, hey, just turn right. No problem. Well, yeah, I want to believe you, but my history, my past, doesn't allow that to be a truth in my space. So some assembly required, but today, in this new light that's unfolding, not so much challenge, but just a different view of the story.
Yeah. So then the opposite to be true as well, then, if we are in a space of love, kindness, that resonance, that kind of, I don't want to say positive thinking. It just sounds so cliche, but in a place of holding a space in myself where we are open-hearted and we are in a resonance of that, then surely we're going to be attracting more of that into our lives too.
Sure. Absolutely. See, that law of attraction, which everybody says, oh, I know all about the law of attraction. It really is kind of one of the fundamental building blocks in the universe. Creators said, go create. And I won't second guess you. You go create. And here's a construct. You can count on this. What you put your attention on, I, the universe creator, will provide for you. We spend very little time holding on to the thoughts that we think. How many times do you say, yeah, let's do that? And then the next minute you forgot you even said that. So once you begin to realize, and you also say, yeah, I'm going to go do that, and you hold it. And it might be, I'm going to buy a quart of milk. And then 2 days later, you go by the store and you go, oh, I have to go buy that quart of milk. It's there held in your space, beginning to draw to you. More you put your attention on it, the more you receive it. The challenge is the universe doesn't understand English, French, Spanish very well. It doesn't understand your wantings. What it does understand is your vibration. So how many times have you said, I'm not okay, I don't deserve. And then you don't like the feeling of it. So what you actually do mechanically is you put it back here in the backpack and you say, hey, I'll make a deal with you. I was just embarrassed and I'll never go over there again if you don't jump out and bite me in the butt again. Okay, no problem. Except you forget that it's back there and it's still back there. It didn't go away. It's sitting in your nervous system. It's sitting in your filter system. It's sitting in your reaction because it was the lady over there in the red shirt that embarrassed you. But when I walk over here, all of a sudden the guy in the blue shirt embarrassed me too. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to start to hide. Anybody a hider? Stepping away from what's possible because they may not like me. They say real clearly, here's the rules. You do this, you don't do that. You go here, you don't go there. You talk to these, you don't talk to those. You eat this, you don't eat that. And we as little kids in our wonderfulness say, okay. And then we begin to play the story. In a lot of ways, it's that kind of one-liner about created in somebody else's image. Mom, dad, teacher, minister. Here's the truth. They love you. They want the best, but the best is through their filters. all that, I'm saying this because all that's in the process of falling away. And a lot of the struggle and the words like that, if you stop and get into present time and say, whose energy is this? Is this even my energy? Is this my thought? Is this my feeling? The answer is no. Well, that's what my mother did. This is how I learned from my father. And what my father was uncertain about himself. And well, are you uncertain? Well, yeah, kind of. Where did you learn it? Is that the life that you wish to live? Now, there's no right or wrong here. So that's the other piece. You take the duality off the table, because remember a few minutes ago, we kind of just pushed everything to the side. So it's just kind of me and all of you just sitting here talking.
Yeah.
Is this helpful? Am I making any sense?
Yeah. Totally. And I feel, it literally comes back to what you spoke about at the very start about being the pointer, and actually people coming back to literally trusting the heart, the knowing, and leaning in and taking action or making choice points from here.
Yes.
As opposed to, and that's how I kind of, see it.
Yeah.
Oh. Mate, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. I just want to ask you a couple of questions before we wrap things up as well. One is, what does your morning routine look like? Or do you have a routine, a ritual around everything you teach? Or is it like so ingrained in you now that?
The answer is I have no routine. And the reason I have no routine is because, see, when you begin to get present, quiet, and aware, when you begin to recognize that you get into the center of your head and just look through your eyes, when you become grounded and you're consciously aware of being grounded, when you play with that aura that I mentioned earlier and you begin to be on your side and let the movie theater and Shakespeare be over there, all of a sudden you're very much in present time. And that's an alignment of your existence. That's not a do this, do that. We'll teach grounding or center your head and people say, okay, I got to do that. It actually is a living space. It's that space that you walk around in. It's who you are. I want to say it's an elevated space, but we've been demoted. We drop down into fear and anxiety, and I'm not okay and I don't deserve it. And I'm waiting for them over there to tell me I'm okay. They have very little play in your reality when you realize you're the most important part of your life. And so I don't have a ritual or a meditation. I just simply, can I live from this alignment of well-being, present time, observing what's in front of me, and then choosing an action accordingly. It's simple, but it's not heard in a lot of ways. You don't understand. You don't understand my problem. That sounds good, but you don't understand me. Yeah, I kind of do, having been there and seeing thousands of people having been there. And then it's just simply take a breath, be in present time, look around from the center of your head, grounded.
Yeah, beautiful. I remember having Amit Goswami. Are you familiar with Amit Goswami? He's
yes.
For people, quantum physicist, and he was on you, and he said, "Oh, it took me almost my entire life for me to get from my head to my heart."
Yes.
And he said, "Now I live in the heart," but he said it's a case of do for me. So he spends a lot of being, and then he would do.
Yes.
And that stuck with me ever since. Kind of from what you shared. Where can people find you, Jim? Where's the best place to send them and your work if they want to find out more?
masteringalchemy.com.
Beautiful.
That's the easiest place. And we give away free. We give away so much free stuff. But there's core work, and the core work is literally starts as, how do I get in the center of my head? How do I ground? how do I define myself in present time, all the way out to building the light body, which is very real, tangible, kind of fascinating experience. Not to spend any time here about that. But
yes, it is. Well, maybe you can come back on the podcast in the future and we can get into some of these topics, Jim, if you're happy to. Last question for you, and I ask everyone on the show is there anything you want to leave the listeners to ponder on after everything we've discussed today?
The world is evolving into an astonishingly wonderful place. If you can get quiet and just step back, you're going to notice that an awful lot of what you hold your attention on has nothing to do with you at all. It's other people's puzzle piece. Your puzzle piece doesn't have to do with all that. Your puzzle piece right now is very much about getting into this heart space. Simply just taking a breath, go for a walk, enjoy the flowers, and recognize I'm right here, present time. And everything begins to move around that. It's really about, can you like yourself? Even just a little, even just a one-liner. How often can you say to you, I like me, I'm pleased with me, I'm happy, and feel the smile that comes from it. Everything else falls in place.
Jim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation, and it's one I'm definitely going to listen back to as well. There's a lot in there, but
Great.
Thank you so much, my man.
My pleasure, Guy. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed being here with you.